We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios.
Visit MTE.com.
Middle Tennessee Electric, serving to make life better since 1936.
This is a WGNS Action Line. Talking with Rutherford County newsmakers
since 1947.
This is a WGNS Action Line. Now, your host, Scott Walker.
And today in studio, we have got attorney Laura Baker from the law offices of John Day. How are you this morning?
All right. Good morning, Scott.
This time of year, a lot of people are moving into new homes or moving into new neighborhoods. They're, I guess, working in the yard a lot more. Their dogs are out. Right. All sorts of potential problems. Hate to look at it that way, but I guess folks need to be prepared for anything and everything.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's the springtime, summer's around the corner, people are outside more often. And that means that there's more opportunity for folks to encounter dangerous conditions on your property or other people's, in parks, on sidewalks. And so it's a good time for everyone to take a look around and notice anything that might present a tripping hazard or some other hazard for your neighbors and friends.
So when it comes to phone calls you guys get from, let's say, folks who live in neighborhoods, what's the most common call if they're asking about a potential lawsuit? What's the most common incident that occurs?
I would say most commonly it would be swimming pool safety, because a lot of neighborhoods have swimming pools in them. And unfortunately, as the temperatures warm up, there's more opportunity for folks to get out and swim, but there's more opportunity for there to be terrible accidents involving swimming pools, drownings, near drownings, slip and falls on pool decks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know every year, it's like the number one thing parents say to their kids, don't run around the pool.
That's exactly right. And I brought my 10-year-old daughter, Claire, with us today because she is an expert on what parents tell their kids about or about safety at swimming pools.
Do your parents often tell you, hey, don't do this, don't do that?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Do that a lot.
I think if I had a repeat button pre-recorded, I could have just pre-recorded myself saying, don't do that. Just play it for my kids over and over again.
That's exactly right.
What does your mom most often say don't do?
Probably be on my iPad or my... Yeah,
electronic devices. And it's number one, I bet, for parents.
That's exactly right.
What do you think the biggest concerns your mom has around the neighborhood?
Probably dogs. You don't want to just run up to a dog and pet them. You might want to ask before you should ask before you pet or touch,
somebody else's dog, right?
Yes, touch somebody else's dog. You can touch your dog, obviously, but don't just run up and pet.
I agree, because you never can tell, is this dog going to be crazy? Is it going to bite me? Or what's going to happen? Everybody's dog is different, it seems like.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the things that I've taught Claire since she was a little girl. And another concern around neighborhoods in the spring and summertime, folks are getting out more, walking their dogs. There's more opportunity to encounter a dog that you don't know. And when it comes to kids, they can be unpredictable. The law says that children under the age of 7 cannot be negligent as a matter of law, probably just because they are. Yeah. And they got no money. So you can't really hold them responsible. But I've always taught my kids, don't just run up and pet a dog you don't know, ask permission, because it's on the owner to say, this is a safe dog. This is a dog who maybe just doesn't need to be touched. Leave them alone.
I don't know what it is about dogs running around without a leash on and you don't see an owner anywhere. But something about that always kind of freaks you out, especially if you have kids. You just don't want to see a stray dog out wandering the neighborhood.
Absolutely. You don't want to see that. And I've helped a lot of families whose kids have been bitten or attacked by dogs. And they're really sad cases. Barring a death, what happens in a dog attack can stay with a kid or even an adult for life, particularly when it comes to scarring and facial scarring that can happen when there's a dog attack. So you can never be too careful on either side of that type of incident. Teaching your kids to not pet dogs or run up to dogs that you don't know. And then as the dog owner, making sure to leash your dog and keep them under control and not allow children or other people to interact with them if they're known to be aggressive.
And even the kindest dogs out there, they get kind of spooked sometimes when a stranger approaches them. I mean, it's just in their nature.
Exactly. What do we always say about our big lab Knox, Claire? What does he like to do to strangers?
He likes to bear hug them. He runs up and jumps on them.
Exactly right.
Pulls them down.
Yep. So he's not really a biter, but he could knock somebody down because, you know, he's got a lot of love and he wants to give it away.
It seems like that's how every dog I've ever owned, that's how they are, you know?
Exactly.
And they don't mean any harm by it, but that's just their way of showing, hey, I'm a good guy.
Exactly.
But it doesn't feel so good if you don't know the dog and this great big dog jumps on you.
Exactly. So yeah, that would be another example of a call that we get for incidents around a neighborhood.
I can imagine that. I still remember, and I'm scarred for life from this. No, I'm kidding.
Do we need to lay down on the couch, Scott, and talk about it?
Yes. I was like in second grade, and the neighbor's dog was out. And it's a dog that I knew, but yet still, it freaked me out, I guess. It came up to me and just randomly bit me on the shoulder. It wasn't like a horrible bite. Right. It was more like a love bite, you know, like it's saying, hey, I'm over here. It's a great big St. Bernard.
That's scary.
Freaked me out a little bit for a second grader.
Absolutely.
But those things, they happen every day.
They do. They happen every day. And it's our responsibility as dog owners to leash and control our dogs. And being a good neighbor, it's your responsibility not to walk up and startle a dog that you don't know.
Here in Tennessee, you're required to have your dog on a leash, right?
At all times.
I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, I don't either. And I will say that county by county, I think some counties do consider an electric collar where you maybe don't have a physical leash between you and the dog to count as a leash. I personally think that that's risky to rely on that as a leash with a dog when you're out in a public place because electronics can fail, even electric fences can fail. If you have a dog that isn't just a tiny little dog like our dog Lucy that couldn't hurt a fly, be careful about relying on something other than a physical leash to restrain your dog.
Big dogs, little dogs, it doesn't matter. If you're riding a bike, if you're riding a motorcycle, that dog that's not on a leash can easily run out in front of that bicycle rider, motorcycle rider, and that can lead to some pretty serious injuries.
You raise a very good point. I've had multiple cases where a bicyclist or a motorcyclist has been riding and a dog has run out into the road and caused them to have an accident and have serious injuries.
That could easily be more serious than the dog bite itself.
Exactly.
In cases like that, what usually happens if it goes to court or if it's in that process of heading to a trial?
Well, I would say, firstly, know that most of the time the insurance coverage that you may have that would apply if you're the dog owner would be your homeowner's insurance coverage. But when you're heading to court, I mean, it's a lawsuit against the dog owner. And under the law, there can be multiple people who are considered dog owners. A dog owner is not just the person who has legal ownership, like I went and bought my dog or I went and adopted my dog from the pound. That's not the only owner of a dog. An owner of a dog can also be anyone who regularly harbors that dog. So you take care of your grandson's dog, you could be a dog owner under the law and end up in a lawsuit or on the other side of a lawsuit where somebody's seeking compensation from you for not controlling the dog.
That's scary because there's so many parents, grandparents out there who are watching their kids' dogs while their kid goes to school, goes to work, goes, fill in the blank there.
Absolutely. And we've had cases like that where a parent, a grandparent, even a neighbor has taken care of a dog repeatedly and regularly. And though they have no legal ownership, they had the responsibility to reasonably control that dog and did not. And an incident happened and then they're on the hook for it.
Whenever a dog bite does occur or the dog runs out in front of a bicycle rider, causes an accident of some sort, does that person's homeowner's insurance send a lawyer to represent that homeowner in court?
Yes. So if you're the person who's injured in an incident like that, you have to go out and find a lawyer like me or anyone at my law firm. We help people who are injured. But if you're on the other side of it, you're the person being sued. If you have insurance coverage and it doesn't have an exclusion on the policy, then part of your insurance coverage does pay for a lawyer to defend the claim.
How much of a coverage are we talking here? Because it has to cover the medical expenses of the injured party. I mean, there's a lot that is at stake there.
Yeah. So usually, now there are some policies where it's all wrapped into one big coverage limit, but usually under the insurance policy, the legal expenses and case expenses, that sort of thing, are separate from the coverage for the other person's injuries and damages. When it comes to liability coverage for the other person's injuries and damages, typically, I would say the most common policy we see is a $300,000 limit. I've occasionally seen homeowners policies with a $100,000 limit, and of course, there can be higher than $300,000.
You guys brought a ladybug with you.
Yeah, that's what we were just interacting with our friend over here. Claire, have you named it yet?
Spot, I guess.
Good
Our
name
new friend
for it.
Spot.
It's not on a leash either. I'm a little concerned about that.
I know. I think it's about to attack.
Attacking ladybugs. It's that time of year. You know, they're usually trying to make their way out of the building or the house, whatever it's in.
Yes.
I don't like it.
I don't either.
It's not mine.
Okay. All right. We have a ladybug on the loose here. I'm going to try to redirect it your way.
Yeah.
So with insurance, as far as that coverage goes for the homeowner, how much are we talking about coverage? I mean, a typical homeowner's policy covers to what amount for somebody who gets injured because of a dog bite?
Typically, I mean, I would say the average coverage is that $300,000 liability limit.
And
occasionally they're $100,000. Often there can be more than that, particularly if you have an umbrella policy. Now, I will say one thing to be careful of as a dog owner is to make sure there's not an exclusion on your policy for dog incidents. That's one thing that homeowners policies can exclude. Or one other thing I've seen is they don't exclude it, but they have a lower coverage limit. So I've seen it where a dog incident only has $10,000 in coverage versus the $300,000 you would have if somebody got injured on your property and because you had a dangerous condition that you hadn't dealt with.
You know, even $300,000 today, it's not that much when it comes to medical bills.
It's really not that much when it comes to medical bills. It's definitely not that much if you think about a child who has a facial scar that every day for the rest of their life, when they look in the mirror, they're going to remember that incident. You remember a nip on your shoulder from second grade.
And there's no scar there.
Right. So think about $300,000 is a drop in the bucket when it comes to some lifelong consequences of dog attacks.
How do you represent the person who was injured in court when it comes to that? You know, hey, the rest of their life, they're going to have to live with these scars, not only the physical scarring, but the mental side of it as well.
Right. Well, let me say, firstly, juries in Tennessee never are told how much the insurance coverage is. So what a jury can award for that type of injury can far exceed the insurance coverage. Secondly, when I'm representing somebody in court and trying to convey to a jury what those damages are, if it comes to a scar, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, so you can use pictures. But my client can stand right in front of the jury, and the jury can see if it's, you know, a facial scar or arms, legs, that sort of thing for themselves, what that looks like.
How does the jury, when you're showing them photographs, maybe this is the house where it happened, the dog ran out from the backyard, or whatever you're laying out there for them, how do they interpret, wow, that's $1 million home? I mean, do they look at the case differently and say, I'm going to hold them to a higher level of responsibility because they obviously did well throughout the years in business. They have a nice house to show for it. They should be more responsible. I mean, do they look at all of those things without you saying those things?
Yeah, I will say that I think there can be some unspoken truths that juries are very good at ferreting out and doing their job. Under the law, everyone is responsible the same, whether they have money or not. And that is why, actually, in part, we can't put in insurance coverage, because the amount of a person's losses and damages from an incident, it's not limited by the insurance. Now, you may not be able to collect a full jury award if it exceeds somebody's insurance because maybe they don't have money. That's where maybe they have a nice house comes into play. But yeah, the jury may see those kind of unspoken clues about somebody's financial situation and choose to award more money. But really, juries aren't supposed to take that into account. They're not supposed to take ability to pay into account. That is something for the judge, the court, and the lawyers to deal with after the fact once the jury's rendered their award.
I think in court proceedings, there's so many unspoken words. There's so many unspoken things that go on that is happening. At the same time, it's not supposed to happen, but it does.
Yeah.
But people do look at somebody's full picture whenever a lawsuit is happening. A jury, I can imagine, they would look at that full picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's why you often see bigger awards against companies and businesses and national businesses than you may see against your elderly neighbor that rear-ended somebody in an accident. Jurors aren't required to check their common sense at the door either, by the way. So when they're evaluating any incident, any claim, they get to bring their life's experience with them in deciding what is right and what is fair and what is just.
Now, the homeowner that's involved in a case like this, what is it that they kind of need to be aware of going into something like this? And maybe this will help them figure out, hey, I need to do this ahead of time so that I'm not liable for my dog biting somebody. But the things that could happen if their home's paid for versus it not being paid for, what are the risks they have there?
I think the risk is the same, in my opinion, whether it's paid for or not yet paid for. It's just a matter of time. There's always, if somebody gets a judgment against you, they can always put a lien down on your home. If you have more equity in the home, maybe there's a foreclosure on your house sooner.
Yeah.
I think no matter what, the legal right to proceed against that home is the same, regardless of whether or not you have a mortgage. I mean, the mortgage company gets paid first.
Yeah. That lien, if you lose your lawsuit and you're the person who had the dog and there's a lien against your home, is that paid for whenever, like, let's say 10 years down the road, you sell your house?
That's exactly when
it's paid for.
Yep. Or honestly, you can foreclose on somebody's house just like you're a mortgager. You're a judgment lien holder. You can file a motion to have the sheriff put your house up on the auction block and sell it.
That's scary.
And then, if there is a mortgage, that mortgage lender, like all of the folks that have a claim to a piece of that house, do get paid out of the sale. So that could include a mortgage lender.
Wow.
But if you own it free and clear and someone gets a judgment against you and they foreclose on your house, then they get it.
So if that victim wins the lawsuit, and let's say it's $500,000 and they get the $300,000 from the insurance, that homeowner's on the hook for that remaining $200,000.
That is correct. And I will say that's why, honestly, one of the things that if I'm ever in that situation, I'm going to be asking my insurance company is, what are you doing to get this resolved?
Yeah.
Because it's in my best interest for you to get this case resolved within my coverage limits. Even if the damages exceed it, it is in my best interest for you to figure out how to get the plaintiff to take my coverage limits so I don't end up a defendant in a case and I don't end up with a lien on my house or what we call personal financial exposure.
And when you talk about the insurance company, seeing out for your best interest, we have to remember that insurance companies, it's not a not-for-profit business. I mean, they're for-profit.
Exactly. They are for-profit, and we pay insurance premiums for a reason. We pay our insurance premiums so that if we make a mistake, because it's for accidents, right? Like, nobody's going into court saying, you meant to rear-end me at that red light. No, it's an accident. But we pay for insurance so that when an accident happens, we basically put our down payment down for you to pay the damages that I caused, and it doesn't come out of my own pocket.
And if that homeowner, they say to the insurance company, hey guys, look, the person who was injured came to you and they said, these are my medical bills, here they are, and it looks like I may have to have a surgery in the very near future, but you guys, the insurance company, you ignored it and you said, no, we'll give you $50,000. Can you ask as a homeowner, why did you do that? And why didn't you help this person out so it didn't lead to this court process?
Absolutely. You have a right to question your insurance company about how they're handling your claim. They have a duty to you to work in good faith to try to get that claim against you resolved within your insurance coverage. Now, it can't always happen. It just simply can't. Sometimes the insurance company does everything right. They offer all the money that's due under the policy. They do it early. They do it often. And the damages are just too much. And, for whatever reason, the injured person is not willing to accept those coverage limits. And you're not going to have a beef with your insurance company over that. They did everything they were supposed to do. But we see insurance companies that don't respond, that deny claims, that make very low offers. Yeah. And so sometimes when we see other people on the other side of a lawsuit, in our cases, they might prefer not to be there had it been handled differently.
Now, you've got some homeowners, some business owners who have those, miracle insurance policies that obviously they cover everything that's being asked for. But at the same time, the insurance company, they refuse to make an offer. They refuse to work with that injured party. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be tough as a lawyer to go up against when every road you try to go down, they block it.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is we have a way to solve that problem in Tennessee and across the country, which is we'll just take you to court then.
Yeah.
The option to settle before a lawsuit is ever filed, that exists for everyone, both sides. And if neither side can come to an agreement or one side chooses not to engage at all, then we just go to court and we can have a jury decide it.
Does the judge, do they typically like to see, all right, this insurance company at least attempted to work with this person?
So interestingly, settlement negotiations and offers to compromise are generally not admissible in court in Tennessee.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the policy behind that is they don't want it to ever discourage people from trying to resolve a claim by thinking that later that might be held against them in court. And so even offers that are made, even if we agree to accept less than what we're really going to ask a jury for because we're trying to compromise the claim, the jury will never find out about that. They'll never find out about money offered before a trial by the responsible party because courts and our rules contemplate everybody should make an effort to get it resolved. If it doesn't get resolved, that whole process is not going to help anybody or hurt anybody in court.
What about those cases that seem to drag on for years and years? And maybe it's the other side who says, no, we need to postpone this trial date and they have some excuse. But they postpone it and you're 5 years out, from when the actual accident happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very frustrating when a case drags on for years and years. And I say drags on. There's often very good reason why a case can take longer. For example, sometimes we have clients that end up having another surgery and you kind of want to know what the result, did the surgery fix it or are we still having lifelong problems? And what are the increased medical expenses, the increased lost wages, the increased damages because of that procedure? On the other hand, sometimes cases drag on because there's delay tactics. There's corresponding litigation that can slow things down as well. If there are criminal charges involved, oftentimes that can slow the civil case down. because of the defendant's Fifth Amendment right in the criminal proceeding. If there's an insurance coverage issue, sometimes they call them deck actions to declare the coverage of the policy. Those cases can kind of drag things down. But yeah, it can be incredibly frustrating, especially if you're the injured person and you have made an effort to get the claim resolved. It's frustrating to have to wait for that day in court.
From the outside looking in, because I'm not a lawyer, it seems like there's this big gray area that you don't hear a lot of talk about, and that is the injured party. When they get injured and they have to go to the hospital, get a surgery, then maybe a year later have to have another corrective surgery of some type, and then there's another surgery. But that big gray area is, well, during that whole process, this person, the victim, lost their job because they couldn't go to work the days that they had surgery when they were recuperating. And then maybe on top of that, their husband had to miss X amount of days off of work in order to care for the spouse. I mean, there's all of these things that just kind of like a ripple effect that happen to somebody who's badly injured. And how do you ever compensate for that or get that back? Because that can ruin your entire life, or at least a big portion of it.
It absolutely can. And I think it is one of the most frustrating parts for injured people is they didn't do anything to bring this upon themselves, and they're in this situation, and it can be life altering. And those all the things you mentioned are things that a jury gets to consider in deciding the amount that is fair to compensate the injured person.
You got things like plastic surgery. It may not be a necessity right then, but at the same time, it may be a lot easier for the surgeon to move forward with at least the first phase of that plastic surgery during that, whatever the first procedure is, second procedure is. But I'm guessing some people have to take out a second mortgage on their home to pay for these things.
Yeah, that absolutely. It can be extremely costly, and it may be something that they can't afford to do until they've had their day in court and hopefully receive the compensation for it. When it comes to scars, I can't think of a case where I've had a scar revision that could occur within a year of the scar. You've got to give it time to mature and see how the color is going to change and resolve. And in Tennessee, we have a 1-year statute of limitations.
Oh, wow.
So in a case with a scar, most of the time you may have to go ahead and file a lawsuit on that case, even if maybe there is a way to get it resolved, because you can't even get to the point of figuring out that revision surgery until after you've given time for the scar to mature. When it comes to a future procedure, you can, under Tennessee law, you're allowed to prove the cost of future necessary medical care. So that's that situation where you either take out a second mortgage or you got to wait till you get compensation through your lawsuit, prove the amount of it in your lawsuit, and hope that the jury sees that and compensates you for it so you can get that revision surgery after the fact.
It's such a tough position to be in because your own medical insurance, they may deny claim after claim because they're telling you, well, this is an accident that happened because of a third party outside of this picture. And so far they haven't paid for X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So, I mean, you've got a lot of battles on your hand.
That's true. And most health insurance companies are going to go ahead and pay the bill while you're fighting that battle. They do want their money back if you are able to recover from the person who caused the injuries. That's called subrogation. That's one thing that we lawyers do in these types of cases is we help our clients navigate who has their hand held out to get a piece of any money that you're able to recover for damages in your case.
It's amazing to me how one injury can literally change somebody's life because it really can.
Yes.
And you've seen it.
I've seen it.
Over and over again. Yeah.
Over and over. Yep.
We got to take a quick break and then we will be right back. Again, this morning, we have in studio with us today, Laura Baker with the law offices of John Day. But we'll be right back right after this break. And if you have any questions, you can text those in at 615-893-1450.
This is Peter Demas, and our family is inviting your family to come eat with us at Demas's restaurant. We really focus on value. They get value. They get more than what they pay for. They get a higher level service. They get higher level food at a price that is a lot more affordable. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give people the value, and again, that they were fulfilled both within their stomach and as well as their pockets. We want them to feel satisfied. come eat with us at Demas's Restaurant on Northwest Broad Street.
35 years. That's how long your family has trusted my family to care for your pets. Hi, this is Amanda from Animal City. Get your pets. New Year off to a great start with some fresh accessories and some new toys. Even though it's wintertime, our baby bird nursery has a lot of wonderful occupants. If a new feathered friend is in your future, come in and see us at Animal City. Stop by and get the best quality pet gear in town. Come see us at Animal City, 919 Northwest Broad Street in Murfreesboro.
Hi, this is Tina Fox at the Rutherford Farmers Co-op. Please come see us for all your cold weather needs. We have a great selection of Carhartt clothing to keep you warm, and as always, our warm muck boots to keep your feet warm. We have anything you would need to keep yourself warm or your animals warm. Please come see us. And if you're trying to feed your feathered friends through the cold months, we also have a wide selection of birdseed. That's the Co-op Farm and Home Center on Middle Tennessee Boulevard, just off of South Church.
The Action Line on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Attorney Laura Baker is with us today, again from the law offices of John Day. And we've been talking about injuries that can happen because of a loose dog and being a homeowner. And one of the questions that was texted in, it says, what are the most common types of civil lawsuits that you see filed in Tennessee-related injuries that happen in neighborhoods? And I know you mentioned dog bites being number one, but what other types of injuries occur typically in neighborhoods?
Another type of injuries, I think I mentioned earlier, swimming pools. Whether it's the community swimming pool for the neighborhood or whether it's an individual homeowner's swimming pool. There can also be claims that just have to do with dangerous conditions on people's property. So the unmarked hole, the walkway that is cracked or broken and people trip on it, that would be the second, I would say, most common, is something just dangerous around the neighborhood or on somebody's property.
There's so many homeowners out there with a swimming pool in a neighborhood, but they have teenage kids and their kids bring friends over. They're all swimming, having fun in the backyard, but there's no real adult supervision there so often.
Yeah. Claire, why is adult supervision at a swimming pool important?
Because sometimes when the lifeguards go off break, there's nobody to watch the kids, and it's adult time. Well, in most neighborhoods.
Yep, that's right. So supervising your kids, making sure that there's somebody there to supervise your kids is really important. We rely on lifeguards to do that sometimes, and they can have a legal duty of supervision as well. But yeah, teenagers, I think what you're kind of got in mind is we don't make sure that teenagers don't break into our pool late at night and have a little party.
And that happens.
There. It does happen. It does happen. It's why it's important to have a pool alarm. It's why it's important to have your pool fenced in. Even though maybe a teenager can be negligent under the law.
Can't imagine a teenager doing something wrong.
Right, exactly. You also want to be a responsible pool owner. And to me, the scarier thing is, what about the 5-year-old who goes into the neighbor's pool area, falls in, and doesn't make it out?
Crazy how fast those things happen. And they happen every day all around the country.
Exactly. And one way to prevent that is to have a pool alarm and to have a fence or a gate, some enclosure surrounding your pool. In Rutherford County, that's required that you have fencing on all sides of your pool.
And I think in most counties, they require stuff like that.
Yes, most counties. Not every county yet, but
maybe one day.
Maybe one day. If you're down in Florida or places where people use the pool year round, it's more restricted when it comes to pool ownership.
And in Florida, I noticed, I think just about every single pool in every county that is behind a home, they've got this big wire mesh over it.
Yes, the lanai.
And they're expensive, but they're everywhere.
Yes, I think it's great.
One of the other questions we got, it says, how quickly should you document when somebody gets injured on your property?
Well, I mean, I think typically those things get documented pretty quickly in terms of just communicating with the injured person. Whether or not law enforcement needs to be involved is another question. You don't always see, a police report if somebody gets injured on your property. More often than not, it's just the homeowner and the injured person make a claim on the homeowner's policy.
And then for dog bites, I guess it's probably fairly routine to call police in those cases.
It is routine to call police and to call animal control. Even if you, as the dog owner, have vaccinated your dog and this is a, first-time incident, they're still going to be involved because the injured person needs that assurance that the rabies shots are up to date. And the medical providers want to know that too, because if you can't verify rabies status, there's a series of shots that a person who's bit by a dog is supposed to have to make sure that they don't contract rabies.
Now, Claire, do you have random dogs in your neighborhood that just stroll up to you?
Not really. There's mostly dogs that are just on leashes with their dog owners.
See, that's good. Everybody obeys the law there.
That's right. And Claire walks our smaller dog around the neighborhood sometimes. Why don't you walk Knox, the big lab?
Knox is really big. I can't walk him. It's hard to walk him.
He walks you more so.
Exactly. He walks me.
People don't talk about cats that much, but cats, they can cause a lot of damage too.
Cat bites can be really nasty.
Really?
Yeah, they can get infected. I think their mouths are supposed to be dirtier.
And they scratch a lot quicker.
Yes, they sure do.
They're not as outgoing as most dogs are.
That's true. But you know what? They would be treated under the law the same way as a dog under we call it the dog bite statute, but really it's your duty to control your animals.
So theoretically, should you leash your cat as well? I mean, I'm just curious because you hear so much talk about dogs and dog leashes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't really see people leashing.
I don't either.
Their cats. Maybe it's because cats are like antisocial for the most part.
I never really thought about it.
I haven't really thought about it either. We're going to have to go research that now.
Unfair justice for cats and dogs.
I know. Wow.
So if somebody does get injured, regardless of how they're injured, should they first, after they're cared for, take photographs?
I would say taking photographs. We've mentioned scars. I usually ask my clients with scars to take photographs every few weeks because it's incredible the progression of a scar over time.
And that happens quickly.
Yes. When it comes to an incident, particularly on at a business or a piece of property, conditions can change quickly. And so, yes, you do want to take photos or send somebody that you love back to go take a picture of that condition. If we're called early enough, we go do that for our client and we ask the property owner to let us photograph and inspect before they make any changes. Of course, everybody wants an unsafe condition to be fixed, but we want to document what it looked like at the time.
Definitely. Again, with us today, Laura Baker with the law firm of John Day, and that's online as well with johndaylegal.com.
That's it.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We're broadcasting from the Middle Tennessee Electric Studios.
Middle Tennessee Electric, serving to make life better since 1936.
Visit
mte.com.